The Central Bank of Brazil is a federal financial authority that has gained much prominence in the recent time. But do you know all the history and the role of the Central Bank? Come with us and we will explain.
In 1694, still at the beginning of the colonial era, the first Casa da Moeda is created as an organizational institution of the local monetary system. Some years later, in the early 80s, more precisely in 1808, the Banco do Brasil was created as a mixed central bank for banking operations and state operations. At the end of the first government of Getúlio Vargas, the Superintendency of Currency and Credit is creating, shaping the paths for the formation of a federal economic autarky as the Bank of Banks and of the state. Finally, in 1964, the federal government issues a decree creating the BACEN as a public institution, regulatory and supervisory bank. In 1988, with the enactment of the Federal Constitution, the BACEN began to have all its activities described and provided in detail by law, as well as the bank's responsibilities and attributions.
This entity is directed by its president and directors, who make up the collegiate board of directors, all appointed by the President of the Republic and approved by the Senate. The President of the Central Bank represents the institution in the country and abroad, participates as an integral member with voting rights in the meetings of the National Monetary Commission. Also defines the powers of attributions of the members of the Executive Board, and engages on behalf of the Brazilian government with foreign and international financial institutions. It is also incumbent upon the President of the Central Bank to decree a resolution regime in institutions subject to the supervision of the autarky and to designate the person responsible for
In addition, the Central Bank of Brazil is responsible for certain measures, such supervision of banks and financial institutions and their operations, including control over compulsory deposits. Loans from and by these banks to BACEN are also common in a procedure called overnight. Control over the issuance of the national currency through the Casa da Moeda, entity linked to BACEN and the federal government, which issues all physical Brazilian real banknotes and coins currently in circulation. Control over the national exchange rate variations by defining the exchange rate regime to be followed by the country. Some time ago, the government established a parity regime with the US dollar, for example. And the most sensible part, control over the variation of the national interest rate, called in Brazil as taxa de juros, through the Monetary Policy Council, coupon, and the Special System for Settlement and Custody, Selic, which determines the basic interest rate nationwide.